Hey folks, hope y'all are having a good day, good evening, could be good morning where you're at, depending on what country you're in. Hope you guys are having a good time though. Let's go ahead and get down to business here. Talk a little bit about some random news, and then we will hop into playing some games here. So hope you guys are having a good one. I don't know what too much there is to talk about tonight. I guess the Snyder Cut, which there's the cadence. All right, there's the Snyder Cut, which I guess some people care about. I don't really care that much about it, but if you're into that, I guess that's you. I did see that Zack Snyder went on. I guess he went on this channel, Geeks and Gamers, and the first thing he did was he said, like, there's this Geeks and Gamers thing on this. They were doing they were trying to raise money for suicide prevention, which is not a bad, that's not a bad charitable cause, right? But he hopped on there and basically said, we're not associated in any way with Geeks and Gamers. And let me just say, it's not about hate. We don't want hate. We're not about hate, like this sort of thing, implying that Geeks and Gamers was like a hateful channel or something, or they're all about hate. Which was kind of sad. And then I saw, who was it? One of these Star Wars YouTubers, Doomcock, was like, it's super sad to see people in doing cancel culture and they're not going to watch the Snyder Cut. This is what we asked for, and now people are saying they're not going to watch it because Zack Snyder said something bad to Geeks and Gamers or something like that. And I'm like, I wouldn't watch it simply because I don't have an extra 4 hours to flush down the toilet. Now, I would watch it. I actually have said this. I would watch it to compare it to the other movie, because I actually think this is one of those rare opportunities where you really could have a comparison between two different creative visions of a movie. Like, this sort of thing never would happen. Like, you're never going to see a Force Awakens alternate cut or something like that, because it would just never happen. You're never going to see what originally the Solo Star Wars movie was supposed to be. You're never going to see that because Disney wouldn't let it happen. So it's actually kind of unique that this happened at all. But anyway, I thought that was interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, the pop cult we call it a pop cult for a reason. Brian Niemeyer really came up with the pop cult part, and so I'll give him credit for that. But it is like a religion, and so the faction of the religion which views itself as non-woke is kind of like a little schismatic version of that religion. They're not really interested in giving up the popular franchises. They're not really interested in stopping consumption of Star Wars or DC Comics or Marvel Comics or Marvel movies or DC movies or whatever it is. Most of them, I think, are more interested in movies than comics, just based on numbers, sales numbers. Like, American comics don't sell well. They haven't sold well in quite a while. So it's probably the case that they really just don't care about it. So that's, I thought that was interesting, and it's really funny to me where it's like, no, you can't just not consume product. That was like basically what Doomcock was saying. You can't just not consume product because the person who made it hates you. You can't not consume product. This is the product that we wanted. We wanted the Snyder Cut. And it's this psychological belief, like replacing religion. It is like a pop cult, that if you do the right things, if you say the right things, if you evoke the right set of words, then somehow what you want will be given to you. It's an idolatrous relationship with the pop cult. And so the schismatics over here that view themselves as non-woke, their response was to talk about how diverse they are, that there's women and people of color involved with them. Like that matters to them, to the other side at all. That's you just kind of speaking to yourself and saying, no, we have done the correct things. We have done the correct invocations. We are the correct chosen races to receive the blessings of the gods called DC, the DC cinematic universe, or whatever whatever you want to do with that. So I found that rather interesting, that the response to people saying, well, fine, we're not going to watch the Snyder Cut, is, you can't not consume product, guys. It's like, I said this back when Force Awakens came out. It's like, you have to walk away. Stop being a fan of this stuff, okay? Stop giving them your money. I said this back in 2000, whenever Force Awakens came out, 2015, 2016, maybe early 2016. I was just like, after talking to so many people after making my Force Awakens videos, I was like, listen, this fandom thing, you guys need to stop this. You just stop being fans of stuff, because the thing is that they're going to view you as a piggy bank. They're just going to shake you upside down for money and give you garbage products, because they can, of course they could put woke politics in it, because you're going to consume it anyway. I saw this, it just really got hammered home with what was it, the Mandalorian, where it was like, Mandalorian was kind of okay. There's definitely some like good to decent episodes of it, and I liked the way it ended. I thought it started so slow and cringy, but it definitely got a little bit better as you went. But people were eating their cereal over this. They were just like, "Brad, this is so good." They were just so into it. And this is exactly what we want. It's like, why? It's like you went for almost 2 years, you were spending every single waking moment talking about how much you hated Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi. Meanwhile, The Last Jedi was better than Force Awakens. I think objectively it's better. It's a technically better movie in every single way that you could go down the list. It's just incredibly insulting to the Star Wars universe. But it's way better made than The Force Awakens. Like, in every regard, including dialogue. Like, the dialogue is better. It's just poops on the characters, right? It's just garbage characters. And it, like, the story's bad in a bunch of different ways, but it's still better than Force Awakens, where like the plot literally changes its goal halfway through the movie for no reason, and you don't even know why you started the movie. So anyway, they spent 2 years on that, and then like as soon as they saw like a cool dude who looked like Boba Fett, they're like, well, of course we have to watch it. We can't just not watch a Star Wars movie. It's like, I'm going to go see Solo, but I'm only going to see it one time. See, we made a big difference. It's like, not really. And so the mindset of these guys is really a religious one. They're still in the pop cult. They will never stop consuming the product. And I said this is why Gina Carano's firing doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, first of all, because, hey, the fandom menace, that schismatic group of pop cultists, guys, if you're part of that group, you're not a big enough part of the group for there to be a financial incentive to placate to you, especially compared to the moral vision of what's going on. And that's point number 2, which is, even if you couldn't move the needle, it doesn't matter, because the people making the content have a moral reason to make it. They view having a woke entertainment as a moral objective. The moral vision is going to trump the financial one. You can only trump a moral vision with a superior moral vision, as Brian on my show has said numerous times. So that's the big thing, is like, even if you could financially punish them, they still won't respond to the incentive, because they view what they're doing as moral. So you're not big enough. You're bigger than like one person, but you're not big enough to make a difference. If you could make a difference, it won't matter. And the reality is you won't make a difference, because you're still going to consume the product. That's the problem, is that these fans, when I say quit being a fan, the fans will still buy the product. For them, like Star Wars, I said, it still has wheels. Even the fans who hate Star Wars are still going to be watching Star Wars movies 20 years from now. That's just reality. It's like the Godzilla franchise. A new Godzilla movie comes out, people are going to watch it. It doesn't matter how many bad Godzilla movies have been made. It really doesn't. Godzilla at this point is a franchise where if there's a new Godzilla movie coming out, almost everyone's going to want to see it. And it's only worth noting if the Godzilla movie ends up being really good or really loved, like Shin Godzilla or something like that. So people notice when the Godzilla movies are good rather than bad at this point. There's been tons of subpar Godzilla movies, trust me. I think I've seen 90% of Godzilla movies. I used to like to watch them a lot. So yeah, the financial aspect doesn't really matter. You're not big enough and important enough for the to make a financial impact. It's like, we're going to all cancel our Disney Plus subscriptions. Like, let's put the schismatics on the high side. Let's say it's 100% of the people who watched like a Last Jedi video. Let's say it's 200,000 people, and every single one of them put their money where their mouth was, and they canceled their Disney Plus subscription. Disney Plus has 200 million subscribers. It didn't even do 1%. You didn't do 1%. You did like 0.1%. It didn't move the needle. And chances are, even if you cancel it, you're going to re-up when they come out with Mandalorian Season 3 because you just have to see it. Or your wife is going to say, hey, can we get Disney Plus so that, like, let's renew it so that our kids can watch Disney shows or something. That's just the way it works now. I mean, like, I know that sounds, maybe I'm insulting people or that's like black pill, but that's the way it is. So when I see things like Geeks and Gamers fall over themselves to say Zack Snyder wasn't really insulting them or something, it's like, it's like, guys, you are so dependent on, like, your entire existence is dependent on this other franchise, this franchise called Star Wars or whatever it is. It could be Marvel. You're dependent on American otaku culture. And your dependency is that it's bad. You better hope that Disney keeps making bad Star Wars movies so you can keep making content to talk to fans who don't like it. You have to hope that happens. You're just basically in a position where you're completely dependent upon the pop cult. You're a pop cult schismatic. That's it. And so it's kind of like being Anglican. You know, you're Anglican. It's like you really would like to be Catholic. You try to do all the things that Catholics do. You try to have the same sort of liturgy that Catholics have, but it's like, but the king is somehow the head of the church. Just go join the church. Just go back and join the real church. You know, it's like the Anglican Catholic divide in the 16th century or something like that. You know what I mean? Or 17th century. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, let's take a look at the chat and we'll see what's up. Those are the 3 reasons. You're not big enough to move the needle. If you were, it doesn't matter because they are acting on a moral vision. And, you know, the third one is really that I don't believe you're going to put your money where your mouth is anyway. They're going to keep consuming until they're done with it. Or they'll be like, well, I'm not going to pay for them, but I will pirate it so that I can make videos about it. You're still bringing attention to the brand, you know. That's why I took all of 2020 off from talking about making any kind of Star Wars video. It's easy to get some views and pull some people in with the Star Wars videos. It was for a while. I mean, I didn't intend to do that originally with Force Awakens at all. It just kind of ended up that way. And, you know, you can outrage market. It's not a bad thing, in my opinion. I talked about this on stream with Brian. But at a certain point, you have to have something else that you're doing. Or it's just you're too dependent on something that you say you hate. Anyway, let's take a look at it. The interview was cringe. The Snyder Cut needs an editor badly. I heard it's 4 hours. 4 hours, man. Like, I can't... When I see it's a 4-hour superhero movie, I'm like, I can't think of anything. I can think of very few things that I wouldn't rather do than watch a 4-hour superhero flick. You know, it's like I'd rather clean the house for 4 hours. I'd rather clean my garage. You know, I'd rather do almost anything. I'd rather do something productive for 4 hours. I'd rather write. I'd certainly rather play a game or read a book or watch 2 good movies. You know, you could say G&G got Snyder cut. Ooh, burn. We're doing a charity stream. Snyder came on, disavowed G&G by name, and the cope flowed. Yeah. You know, Doomcock does pop cult copium. He's the guy pushing the Lucasfilm Civil War. Yeah, this is the other one. Guys, Filoni, you know, Favreau and Filoni, they're going to save the franchise. They're going to fire Kathleen Kennedy. I'm like, she's not going anywhere. I've been saying this for a long time, and people just don't believe me. They're like, we're going to fire Kathleen Kennedy. I'm like, it's not going to happen. I'll tell you why. It's because the executives look at it, and they look at, okay, Kathleen Kennedy had 3 super successful movies she did, and 1 that wasn't that successful. I'm sorry, 3 really successful, 1 moderately successful, that was Rogue One, was moderately successful, and 1 that was just not that successful, which was Solo, which is actually, I think, the best of the lot in terms of its like technical capacities as a movie. It was like the best movie. But it's like it's someone else portraying Han Solo. Fans didn't love it. And that's fine. You know, it was like a sci-fi, like a sci-fi heist movie. And it kind of worked in that way. And was funny in its own way that way. Anyway, so they're going to look at that, and they're going to look at all the money that came in and be like, yeah, of course we're going to keep her. Why wouldn't we? Because there's like this tiny group of fans that the media has told you are like super evil people. You're not going to capitulate to them. You're not going to do what do anything for them. People talk about toy sales. It's really like, Disney's not hurting from toy sales because they license that out. It's Hasbro that got burned on the toy sales. Now, it might have been because of bad content. Probably is. And really the reason I think is that not just that the content was bad, but that the content was entirely directed towards Gen Y, Gen X, nostalgia nerds. It was directed towards people of my age who have a fond childhood memory of Star Wars. That's it. Wasn't directed towards any younger consumer class or anything like that. And so those people didn't feel like collecting the toys. Like, they made toys basically for collectors. The kids didn't care about the movies. It wasn't a super big hit with younger kids. They weren't out there trying to buy Kylo Ren toys. Except for Legos. Like, I have a Kylo Ren Lego, and my son has never seen the new movies because he doesn't care about them. He just thinks Kylo Ren has a cool helmet. So he uses it to make like evil bad guy Legos. Anyway, the best thing since sliced bread, so the internet says. I need glasses like that for the RPG stream. Yeah, okay. Doomcock, okay, Mine helped you find something other than sand. I hate sand! The double standards are hilarious. Ryan calls them man babies, gets condemned to the deepest depths of hell. Snyder calls them terrorist supporters and hate groups and still gets worshipped. Yeah, it's because you have this thing. It's like, he's the person who's going to save this bad DCEU. We got to have the superhero franchise be good. And it's like, I hate you guys. And you guys are stupid. I wanted other people besides them wanted a Snyder cut, by the way. It wasn't just them. Yeah, Doomcock's been saying Kitty's going to leave for like 2 years. She's not. They're not firing her. She'll leave when she wants to. The YouTuber formerly known as Jim Sterling. Yeah, he just put on a wig and said that he's trans now. I mean, like, I don't know how you can be any creepier. Now, I've watched a lot of Jim Sterling content because, believe it or not, I think he understands the games medium pretty well, and actually can communicate a lot of his thoughts about it. Now, he's very lefty, political, woke, whenever you want to do it. And I think it's actually, I actually spend time consuming opinions or listening to opinions that are really different from mine, including Jim Sterling's. Now, that a lot of people get upset when I mention something like that. I'm like, hey, Jim Sterling actually agrees with me. And they're like, what? But he's evil. It's like, this is really me saying it's not about this, like, the divide. But I do that because it keeps you honest. You got to know where other people stand. You have to engage with what people are saying and doing, not what you imagine their boogeyman self to be. So I have watched a lot of Jim Sterling content in the past, but I see these thumbnails with like Jim Sterling in a wig, and I'm like, you're really going there? I mean, you had the whole fat wrestler thing. Now you're going with the wig. Okay. I don't know if I can sit through a video of you in a wig, because I don't know if I could stop myself from cringing or laughing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. He's jumped the shark so many times, even Fonzie's embarrassed. Jim went troon because the paws started turning on him, I guess. It really is sad. Glad TLG brought me to your channel. Well, I'm glad you're here. And the thing is, outrage marketing can gather people in. Hey, here's some outrage marketing. Boom, boom, boom. I have like a strong, hard message. The last big one was actually like shaving. Like, I had the huge video on shaving, or one on like The Last of Us 2 or something. Boom, outrage marketing. You got to follow that up with something that people are interested in, that makes them think that, like free. I have a bunch of free audiobooks on the channel. They're not that popular, but the people who watch them they like them, I guess. People who listen to them. So anyway, yeah, otaku culture, fan culture, it's like it becomes a person's religion here in America. It's probably, I don't know if it's worse. It's probably bad in Japan too. That's what I hear. Otaku culture is like wanting to kill Anno for the end of the new Evangelion movie or whatever. And it's like, really, guys? I know it's bad here, but can't we just imagine that other countries have better people in them? I was one of Doomcock's patrons, was on his Discord for a long time. I saw the insanity and cult-like behavior. It ended with me calling them SJWs and walked out. Ryan knows how to film more than just lens flare, yeah. Is Revenge of the Sith one of your favorite Star Wars movies? I like Revenge of the Sith. I don't know. I like all 6 Star Wars movies, so I like them in different ways. I'd probably say Phantom Menace is my least favorite. And I like Attack of the Clones a lot more than other people do, I realize. I really like Attack of the Clones. I might like Attack of the Clones more than Revenge of the Sith, but I don't know. But I don't think I like Revenge of the Sith as much as the original three. I like the original three better still. They're just simpler stories, like more straightforward. Revenge of the Sith has a lot going on. It's definitely the best produced movie ever made, in my opinion. The fact that it remains at this point 15 years later the best produced movie, like the highest production movie ever made. I haven't seen a movie exceed the production value of it. Now, I've seen movies come close or almost match it. The one that would come close or almost match it would probably be something like Avatar or Alita. There's a like super high production, like visual explosive movies, but they're not as good as Revenge of the Sith because their sound isn't as good. They're just not as good. They're not as good as Revenge of the Sith in terms of production. It's like one of the best produced movies ever made. Honestly, the older EU is more interesting than Disney version. Yeah, I mean, the EU has a bunch of crap in it too. There's some like, I think it was like the Dark Empire. These comics were like, that's basically what they used for the third Disney Wars movie. Was Palpatine comes back, he like possesses a stormtrooper's body or something. It was super cringy when it was current. We thought a lot of the EU was bad. There were some good ones, like the Thrawn trilogy, but there's some bad ones too. So don't pretend like the EU is like all good stuff. There's garbage in there as well. Really, I prefer to point to somebody who's really gone through all of it and can say, here's like the good EU stuff. Here's the mediocre stuff if you're still interested. And here's the crap that's like, I got nothing else to read. Read that. And if you're going to do EU stuff, buy the books that are the original printing. Buy them from a used bookstore. That way you actually are not giving money to Disney. But even then, I would still say it's probably more worth your time to find something new and interesting to invest yourself in, because it's just you're missing out. You're still focusing on Star Wars instead of spending your time on something else that's good. I've got no reason to. Same thing with HBO Max. Turn on that. It's getting a little warm in here. I did a workout in here. I did like an home arm workout. I'm like tired. I did a good job. I'm tired. Return of the King's extended cut is 4 hours long, but that had stuff that was cut out of the 3-hour theatrical cut, so the average audience member could view the film better. Yeah, I've heard that one too. Let's see. Turn up the fan. There we go. I'm actually going to run the AC in March. Weird. I've had this bad sinus thing going on today. I can't hear anything. If you guys still want to give Disney Star Wars a shot, I suggest just waiting for people to watch the film first, then look at the reviews. If it's trash, you save yourself some money. Yeah. That's what I suggest. It's basic. Wait for reviewers you trust to watch it, and then you can decide later. Or view the cheapest version of it. Wait till it's like on Disney Plus, and you can watch it just as part of your subscription. Lawrence of Arabia is an excellent 4-hour film. I agree. It's actually one of my favorite movies, was Lawrence of Arabia. I thought that was a great movie. Even though nowadays you couldn't make it just because you have a bunch of English actors playing Arabs and stuff. Pointing out that merch rots on the shelves is one of the few useful things the Menace crowd did, and it was world-class bullshitters that did it. Yeah, I remember that. I think Gina Carano's firing matters because it gave her a support base that's invested in helping her succeed in a post-Hollywood career. It may matter for her, but it's not going to move the needle on Star Wars or in Disney. It's not going to matter at all for them. Good if it gives her a career boost or helps her recover her career. Good. I don't think she's a bad person, and I want her to have success. I want everyone to have success if they can have it. Everybody who's not insane, I guess, but that's good. That's fine. Yeah, he had this fat wrestler thing going on, Jim Sterling did, where he'd put on this, I don't know, he had this costume with a vinyl suit covering, he's very obese. So when you see him in the wrestler thing, you're like, we know wrestling's fake because, dude, you have trouble walking upstairs, I'm sure. You're not going to be athletically competing with people. It's just real. Like, I don't hate him for being obese. There's lots of great people who are obese, but they don't put on like vinyl bodysuits. How embarrassing would it be if KK gets the boot? It'd be embarrassing. They're not going to do it though, because it's a PR disaster to do it with what they consider most of their base, because it's going to be spun as like, I can't believe they fired the head of Lucasfilm, female head of a blah blah blah. They fired Kathleen Kennedy, who had worked on the franchise, blah blah blah, who's the producer in these great movies, blah blah blah. People think Kathleen Kennedy is like, this worthless, talentless person, and maybe she is, but she's worked on some great movies that people love. They just choose to forget that she's done a bunch of things that they love and just focus on she produced or was executive producer for 3 or 4 movies that they absolutely hated. But, in terms of financial things, made them money. And Disney has no moral reason to fire her and no real financial reason to fire her. And if they did fire her, there'd be negative moral repercussions and negative financial repercussions. So they're not going to do it. The best you're going to get is her resigning or retiring. And then you're going to have the schismatics pretend that somehow that was a firing and that they succeeded. This is what happens, is that things happen that would happen otherwise, and then these people pretend like they made those things happen. It's like, dude, we made Solo flop. It's like Solo actually didn't really flop. It did okay, I would say. It didn't do great, but in the long run, it probably broke even. And that's considering they made the movie twice. So the budget ended up doubling up because they fired the original guys, the Lego Movie guys, halfway through it and hired who'd they hire? From Happy Days, Ron Howard. They hired Ron Howard to finish it off. So, I mean, Solo is an example of like a bungling act, but it's not like, it's not a very good example of thinking like that you moved the needle significantly. We just have to be real on that. So, but if she ever does retire, then they'll say, oh, she was forced to retire and it's because of us. It's like, no, dude, you're not that important. It is a major problem in Japan, and that's because Japan also atomizes population while diluting their culture, so that the familiar and the cultural glue is weak. I've heard that too. I watched the G&G stream where they reacted to Snyder's comment. Some of them were very critical of Snyder, some cut him slack, feeling he only said it to keep from being canceled. Maybe he did. That's still, he's a coward and deserves to be chided for that. He deserves to be chastised for cowardice. Yeah, I honestly don't remember Attack of the Clones being this bad. Yeah, people who hate Attack of the Clones, I'm trying to figure out what it was. I think they didn't like the relationship, and I could see why. It's kind of like it's very awkward. There's not a lot of screen chemistry, I feel like, between Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, but it's not bad. I think the movie itself has a really interesting plot. It's like the most plot-heavy Star Wars movie. It has a cool mystery to it, and I like mystery plots. I think they work great. They keep you moving forward. And it has a great battle scene too, and couple great lightsaber fights. It's not like you have to go out of your way to find out what the Death Cult's up to. They've turned every medium into vehicles for their anti-evangelism. That's true. Let's see here. Yeah, Star Wars ended for me with Revenge of the Sith, and to pretend the Disney stuff doesn't exist. I have played KOTOR and KOTOR 2. I like them a lot. The problem is, streaming KOTOR 2, people told me this because I guess Razorfist was trying to stream it too. It just doesn't work with streaming software, so I have to find another solution if I want to stream KOTOR 2. We didn't like KOTOR 2 when it was released. We thought it was really bad. So it'd be cool to go back and give that one a second shot, because a lot of people have loved it since its release. So that might be a cool one to go back to. The cultural entertainment wars convinced me that we are trending for secession somewhere down the road. Can't watch a movie without it being a political ritual. Yeah, I think, it's like dig the moat. The big conflicts between the super scale, the massive corporate, massive imperial, and then the local. And so that's basically an urban-rural divide that's very strong. There's always been an urban-rural divide, but now it's very strongly cultural, very strongly values, very strongly religion, very strongly economics. It's significantly divided completely down the line. So it would be better to have urban areas form their own political organization and just buy food from the rural areas, which are a separate country and govern themselves and can do it in a localist sense. Anime recommendation for you, Vinland Saga. I have the manga. The manga's good. So I don't know where to watch the anime. I mean, I might find it. Manga's really good though, so I do recommend the manga. I think it's good. I think the Lord of the Rings movies are better than the prequel trilogy in terms of production values. I don't think so. So I used to think that. The Lord of the Rings movies are excellent though. Maybe they match it, maybe they don't. They're really good production wise. I think Peter Jackson is excellent at doing effects production. He nails it. But there's more that goes into Star Wars besides flashy lights. Like, the effects are great. It's everything from the cinematography down to the editing to the sound design. It's just really well produced, especially Revenge of the Sith. But definitely Lord of the Rings movies are great. They're certainly very, very close. Very, very close. Even if they fire KK, that doesn't mean they're going to make masterpieces. At best, Disney has made decent comic book movies. Yeah, I mean, who's going to do it that's better? I don't know who else. You know. Pro wrestling's like watching Rocky if it was a stage play, but just the fights. Yeah. I don't know what he does. I don't know what kind of wrestling it is. Now, here's another thing, too, is I knew a guy who did, like, this, like, local pro wrestling thing. And, you know, he played like a trans heel or something like that. It's like, this stuff is ridiculous. It's really ridiculous at the lower levels. I never understood WWE. If you like it, that's your thing. But it's way cringier when you go down to like the local shows. There's some cringy stuff that goes on. There's a new video of George Lucas being interviewed by a student. He said that only the first 6 are his vision and that he lost control of Star Wars and positively mentioned the EU. Yeah, I've heard that kind of thing too. Like, it ends at number 6. I've heard him say a couple things though. They like threw his treatments out. You know. Watch the Hellsing OVA instead of Star Wars. I'm going to talk about the Hellsing manga. I'm going to come back to that and do an analysis of it because I think it's one that the flaws are really easy to point out in it, and the strengths are very, people overlook the flaws and don't realize how strong the strengths are, why the strengths are what they are. It's a style-heavy manga that really carries itself with its visuals and its style, but kind of doesn't have a great set of plots or characters. It doesn't quite know what to do with its characters. So it's a good one to look at, I think, because there's good and bad things about it. I don't think it's quite as good as Hellsing fans really think it is. That's for sure. But it's definitely not bad. I think it feels like 90s. It feels like 90s pulp to me, the 90s comic pulp, where it's like it's all about Flash substance, Flash and not substance. All right, let's play a couple games. It really hurt that they messed up the Hobbit. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the Final Fantasy 3. I've had a lot of fun playing this game, by the way, so I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Now, let me see where I am in this game. And we will check out that music. There it is. Now, I managed to get the Orichalcum and talk to like a legendary scribe, and I managed to get the Invincible, which is, I think, the final airship in this one. And it can like hop over mountains and stuff, so it's pretty cool. And it has an inn, so you never have to worry about like, oh, I gotta go stay at an inn. You can stay in an inn for free at this point. You know? Pretty cool. Free inn. I appreciate you joining me, Brian. I'm going to plug Brian's book. Don't give money to people who hate you. At this point, you can just Google it. Because it'll just pop up. But I'm going to go ahead and plug it in the chat because I think it's a good one. And I'm going to plug a little bit of an article I wrote the other day, just an anecdote from a Greek composer I knew named Apostolos Paraskevas. And Apostolos is he's a great composer. He's a Greek composer and a great guy to know. And he has an attitude about working that's basically just... People ask him, like, how do you compose music? And he goes, asking a man how he composes music is like asking a woman how she gives birth. You just push. And if you don't push, you're lazy. That's exactly how he said it. And people, we laughed and we're like, well, that's not really an answer. But I was like, it's the best answer, which is basically people are wanting him to tell them, like, oh, I sit at finale and I do this, or I sit at the keyboard and do this. He's like, that's not what's important. What's important is just you have to do it. And if you don't push it out, if you don't just try to do it, then you're lazy. It's not because I have some special method. You're just lazy if you're not doing it. It's really a prose answer because everybody does things a little bit differently. There's no like set way that you have to do it. This frame rate's feeling a little choppy today. I wonder what the deal is. I think there's like a little... Where am I going? I think there's a little town here that we can go to. Let's that has the Master Smith. They'll give us the ultimate weapon. The orichalcum mentioned by Plato was probably a form of brass. Let's see here. Sight. I like how you have to spend mana to use your map in this game. It's kind of weird, but I like it. Let's see. I think... Is that it? Is it down here? Yeah, I think it's down here somewhere. New pub's a great start, but movies, TV have more cultural influence. Yeah, and that is a problem. I mean, it's a problem with budget. It's like I can make a book for free. I can't really make a movie. It's pretty difficult to make a movie. It takes a lot. But the movies are all based off books. So really, if you make a hit book, you're going to move the needle in the small areas enough to where you can move it in the big areas as well. There we go. You could kind of hop over these little mountains. Okay. There we go. This is the invincible. Here it is. We actually don't land this. We like get out of the thing here. Yeah. I think games is probably the next area. So, we've got comics and books, and we've got great comics and books going on here. So, that's good. Oh, it's a Dark Knight city. Welcome to Falgabard, the place of the solace for those who seek to train in the way of the Dark Blade. Movies are really expensive. And games can be expensive, but they can also be really cheap. So I think games are the next area. New pub games. And the indie game scene's already been great for years. We just have to make games with more of a new pub direction. So I think games are the next big step. And there's huge interest in games. I think it's going to be... I've read the Princess Bride book. I think it's funny. I think it's a funny book, and I like it the way it's presented. But I think you're right, Eric. I think the movie's pretty much better. It's just a more compact presentation of it, rather than making the humor about the layer of like pretending that you didn't write the book. The humor's just in the movie, 38 defense, so it's not really very good. Let's skip that mail. Why does an airship need to hop over mountains in the first place? I don't know. Can't fly high enough for some reason. Demon Axe. I made Clint a Viking, and I don't really like the class at all. I'm not a fan of it. So the new fan film Batman Dying is Easy proves that building a film industry outside of Hollywood is possible. It was crowdfunded for $75,000 and has very good production values. That's good. Maybe I'll check it out. But the problem is it's a Batman fan film. It's not original. So even though $75,000 is enough to make a movie, is it enough to make an original movie because people are only interested in Batman movies? You know? Like, there's been good fan films and stuff. Fan films are not the way forward, though. I mean, they're an example of maybe what you could do for 75 grand. But we need to do it with original IPs, and those things need to be successfully crowdfunded, which is very difficult. So it puts it in the possible category, but the growth has to be... We have to be able to get people interested in making a movie for $75,000 that's not Batman. You know, that's something else. You know, something that's not Batman. Batman. You monsters I create. Could be playing New Colossus or the Women's Daughters. In ancient times, there were soldiers who fought with dark blades and by throwing weapons with tremendous power. They were called ninjas. I haven't unlocked ninja yet. The beasts that roam in this cave can only be defeated by an adept of the dark blade. You don't stand a chance. I could turn my guy back into a Dark Knight, I guess. I heard that some monsters will divide and multiply if you attack them normally. Talk about doubling your trouble. Yeah, I encountered some of them in the last area. So yeah, I'm not super happy with the Viking class. Viking class has been a little bit of a letdown. I thought that Smith was supposed to be here. I got the Orichalcum. So we'll look around for her. I may have like walked past her and just not been looking. I heard that. Okay, we'll look a little bit more closely for her. Maybe like you could get down in the water somehow. Find that Smith. Oh, no. Do you think that comics also can't do pretty well and have original stuff compared to games? What about independent stuff? I already talked about comics. Yeah, comics, we already have a lot of good stuff. Stuff that's done really well. You know, I'm not really doing comics, but we have a lot of comics. Brian says, distribution's the bottleneck. I can absolutely see that. It's hard to get things into theaters. Now, you can't even get them on, like, Amazon Media on Demand anymore because they're shutting that down. It's like, how do you get it on a streaming service? How do you sell the thing after you make it? You know, you could put it on YouTube, I guess. Alright, I think maybe let's kind of switch our formation around. We put the girl up there. Nope. Let's put... Nope, nothing new. Shadowversity is making an indie film based on his own book. They raise hundreds of thousands and have a pretty legit production team. Well, I hope he's successful with it. Aha! Alice. Hello, Vox. How are you? Seroni is a big city, and big cities have very big problems. I'm doing my best, and I think I'm finally getting the hang of this. Hope your journey's going smoother than my rule. From Alice. What a nice letter. Now, I thought the Smith was supposed to be here, but maybe not. I think the Smith can appear in several different places, so... People who made Batman Dying is Easy have built up a fan base with years of fan films and are parlaying that to support their original project, White Dragon. Well, we'll see if the original project is successful. But you know, $75,000 is a lot. I can make a game for a lot less than 75 grand though. Like I could make a game for $0 if I really wanted to, and if I had the time. You know, you can make games for a lot less and possibly even get more out of them. Yeah, I thought the smith was supposed to be down here. If anybody knows, I don't know. Maybe we can go check in the big city. Maybe she's still in the big city. I think she's supposed to wander around or something. Oh, dang it. We could also do that dungeon. That's an optional dungeon down there. Then I have to like switch back to Dark Knight to kill all the guys. We can do that though. What do you think of the overall visual design of the sequel trilogy? I think it's actually pretty boring. I don't like the visual design of the sequel trilogy overall. It's just copying the original trilogy. There's nothing new or interesting about it. It's just OT visual design. There's nothing special about it. It's just a fan film. You know, $200 million fan film. Indie films need a Spotify equivalent. I got my music on Spotify easily. Yeah. I have my music on Spotify too. You can listen to Zool, David V. Stewart Zool on Spotify if you want to. The reason I point out all the 40K animations is because that medium is far more open to indie projects. Have you ever gotten around to reading the Lester Dent? No. No, I don't. It's really hard for me to get to every suggestion. Alright. Let's go down here. But the X-Wing is now black with an orange stripe. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Or look, the Walkers have gorilla hands. That looks cool. It's like, I guess. You know. Lucas actually created new visuals for all of his stuff. And the legendary Smith was over here, so she's not there anymore. She's somewhere else. Dang it. I really want that. Yojimbo, I talked about that at the beginning of the stream. For like 20 minutes, so if you're just joining me now, I appreciate it, but I already talked about it, so we don't need to go over it again. I don't think I've ever met anyone who said they were a fan of J.J. Abrams. I have met people that say they love J.J. Abrams movies. I've met them. And I could see why they like J.J. Abrams movies, because they are very flashy. I get it. Not even J.J.'s a fan of J.J. And they're around, you know. But probably not a fan the way like they're a fan of like a Scorsese movie or something. Check the smithy. Yeah. Well, she was standing outside, so I'm not sure where she's supposed to be. Could check a guide, you know, because I don't remember. I swear if she was in this, like, the first time I played. So I want to check it again. Didn't Games Workshop basically blackmail those fan filmmakers into working for them? I hadn't heard that. I heard that they were, like, excited about it or something. I had to mute the stream because of a phone call, but I was here lurking. Oh, thank you. Boop. Let's go try out this this dungeon. Let's save the game. We'll try out the dungeon. See if we can see what we can do in the dungeon. Spotify for indie films is $1 billion idea, but we have YouTube, so it'll be up against the hegemon. Yeah. I mean, the problem with, say, YouTube for indie film distribution is that there's so much content on YouTube of so many different kinds. You're not it's hard to cut through the noise, so to speak. I didn't check the end. Remember when it could be said Tom Cruise never made a dud? He made that Mummy dud. You know? Shutter Island is one of Scorsese's best movies. I think one of my favorites is one called Bringing Out the Dead. It's always like nothing happens. My 12th grade drawing teacher used to say he would add your suggestions to his checkout list that he would never get to. It just happens, man. It's hard to get to everything. I have a lot going on. You know, especially the last couple weeks and months. I got kids that don't sleep. I got, you know, trying to deal with remains. It's been bad. Yeah. I don't think the Smith is here. I think I'm wrong. It's like I hate being wrong and like my memory's not right, but it's clearly my memory's not right. Is there something hidden here? Sometimes there's like a little something hidden. Guess not. Weak. I think you could find her at the bottom of the well in one of the towns too. I also have a level 99 class, so I really want to find her to get like the level 99 armor. You know, we'll try the cave. Oh. Blessed Hammer. There we go. Dragon Hammer. Cruise still has solid output whenever he produces the movie himself. Each Mission Impossible sequel gets better than the last. The Mummy wasn't produced by him. Man's bad films are still watchable, like Miami Vice. I like Michael Mann's movies a lot, yeah. He really knows what he's doing. He's a good technician. Now, do these guys divide? I guess they don't. Terrain. How would you compare production values of films like Star Wars and Gone with the Wind? Remember the wounded Civil War soldiers wide shot scene? You know, it's interesting to think about that because, you know, thank you, Dimitri. Thank you for reading the book. Magic. Cure. Here we go. I do check out a lot of things that people say, and sometimes I'm disappointed as well. It's like, check out this fan film. I'm like, it's a bad fan film. Miami Vice is beautifully photographed. I'll give him that. Let's do this guy. So let's attack, guard, and terrain. What are your thoughts on Manly Wade Wellman? I actually don't think I've read anything about Manly Wade Wellman. So no opinion. Heat and Collateral are my two favorite Michael Mann films. I find Public Enemies to be quite underrated. Valefor. All right. Ronin's one of my favorite movies, actually. Ronin is like, it's got some of the best car chase scenes ever shot. But thinking about, comparing production of new movies versus old movies. They had different things in mind with what they were trying to do. They had different tools to work with. So you kind of have to take a what's possible at the time kind of approach. Wait. I think I'm going backwards. Yeah, Ronin has one of the all-time classic car chases. It's great. 9999. Wow. That hit hard. I want to try out all the classes in this game so I can give some advice as to what they do. Oh, sweet. These guys divide. That's nice. Sprayed this bullet with Teflon, yeah. I haven't seen Nightcrawler from 2014. My ability to watch movies went down significantly starting with the birth of my son in 2015 as well. Once you have kids, your ability to just sit down for 2 hours at a time goes to impossible mode, And if I'm going to sit down for 2 hours, I need to be working. That's the way it goes. I can watch... I've really enjoyed watching 30 minutes of anime at a time while on the exercise bike. And that's about as much passive media as I can possibly stand to watch it all. I get really bored with movies as well. The chest contained demon mail. Let's see if I can... Is that any good? Demon mail. No, it's not as good as what I got on. Is it as good as the Viking mail? Slightly better. We'll wear it. Once you get through your first 3 libraries of reading lists, try The Lies of Locke Lamora. It has one of my favorite back cover blurbs. We'll just look at the blurb. Gap. It's a funny one. Yeah, my left ear, which I can normally hear out of, is clogged up or something, and it's just really driving me crazy tonight. I can't hear anything. I'm new to your channel, but I got the impression you're a stay-at-home dad. I am now. I've done lots of things, though. I was a college professor. I was a public school teacher, so if I say something about public school, that comes from a place of intimate knowledge. I'm not just talking on my ass. Kotetsu. And I equipped that. Oh, that's a katana. That's for ninjas. So no, can't do that. It might be equipable by Dark Knights, so we might try that. We'll provoke that one. Try that. Guard. Terrain. How hard do you think it would be to have one of your books made into a graphic novel or light strategy graphic novel? I don't know what light strategy graphic novel is. Oh, like a visual novel. It wouldn't be that hard. Do you think it would be worth it? I don't know if it would be worth it. That's the thought. I've thought about doing a visual novel. Visual novel is something I can do very cheaply. So that is something I've considered, but I haven't done it. I want to consume more visual novels before I have... Yeah, you can play with 8-bit music. I've done it a couple times. You could do this game with 8-bit music. This is the PSP version. It's running off my PS Vita right now. See? So it's... this is streaming from my Vita. Ashura. Oh, I think that's a good sword, right? Is there something here? Well, we'll find out after we kill these bugs. Yeah, you can listen to the 8-bit music. I think I like the reorchestrated music better in most circumstances. But the 8-bit music is a good change-up. And it really sounds pretty good. I don't think it sounds quite like an actual NES, though. NES sound emulation's not always right. I think the hardest sound system to emulate is Genesis, though. Genesis emulators never sound like a real Genesis. It's like impossible mode to get an emulator to actually sound like a Genesis. So yeah, this is the PSP version you can buy on the Sony store and play on your Vita. I don't think you can get a physical version of it in the West. But this is also the same as the PC version. So if you play the PC version, it's the same as this. It's based on the DS version. Just so you know. And I have the DS version as well on the DS. So I first played this on the DS at this point now, probably 15 years ago, 16 years ago, something like that. So I don't remember a lot of it. It's like playing a new game again, which is really fun. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, so what I usually do during the day with my kids, then I can work when they go to sleep. So one of the reasons I didn't stream on Monday was, well, it was daylight savings time, and we got one kid to bed on time, but my daughter was like, no, I'm not going to bed. In fact, I'm going to stay up extra late for you, Dad. Let's hang out. Let's have a party. And so we did that. Hit it with Kira. We can refill so easily here. So all the stuff that you see me do, I do on like 30 minutes a day. Sometimes 0 minutes a day. Certainly less than 2 hours of what it would take to watch a movie. That's why it's like so hard for me. It's like, can you watch this movie and do a review of it? It's like, that's a 2-hour investment. I have so few 2-hour blocks in the week. It's really hard for me to justify a movie, especially when there's a million things I know that I'm going to enjoy more than that movie, like playing this game. Box. And it's nothing against movies or anything else. It's an art form that requires time to watch passively, and I don't have that time. Whereas a book I can read in a bunch of short stints. The way I read books is I read them a lot on my phone, like the ebook. If it's an ebook, I'll read it on my phone because I can whip my phone out and read. I do a lot of reading every day. If you want to know like what kind of reading I do, I usually start the day by reading whatever blogs are out. So I'll read Bradford and Brian's blog. I'll read J.D. Cowan's blog, Alexandru Constantine's blog, John De La Rosa's blog. I'll read everybody's blog in the morning, just because it's just good. It gets my mind thinking about the culture war and stuff. And then in other little dead points, I'll read a couple pages of a book that I maybe am working on, an ebook, or I'll pull out the paperback. I really like having paperbacks sitting around. So if I'm like trying to get my daughter to sleep, I'll usually have a paperback on the table. Oh, what did I leave on the table? Oh, I left this Quorum book. Cool. I like reading Quorum books. It's a Michael Moorcock book. Cool. And I can read that, and it's just a lot of different influences coming in, rather than a lot of people read one book at a time and just read straight through it. I think it's sometimes good to have a lot of different books around, because you could just really get a quick sense of how different English style can be. And I was going through and proofreading Water of Awakening to just update the interior, because you can get the hardback right now. So I was just going to do a couple of proofreading edits, because I think there's quite a few things that have gotten through previous editions. So I was doing that, and I was like, man, I have a certain style that is just really different from other authors. I reverse word order quite a bit because I think it sounds cool. And a lot of people don't realize this in the English language if you're not a native speaker, but word order actually matters less than you think it does. So when you're taught English, I notice this with people who don't speak English as their first language. They are taught that the order of the language matters. It's a red bus, so you get adjectives before this, this before that. So you start to think that all adjectives have to precede what they're modifying, and it's actually not that way historically or otherwise, and you can write it that way. So I tend to write in what might be called a slightly archaic style because I think it sounds cool when I read it aloud. So if you could say, he moved quietly down the hall. He quietly moved down the hall. He moved down the hall quietly. So the modifier, the adverb, quietly, can be pretty much anywhere, and you know what it modifies if you speak English. This is what's kind of cool about English. You can construct a sentence in so many different ways. In Latin, you really can do that to the extreme because the stem will modify what the purpose is. So if you're reading Latin poetry, it's like the word order can be really jumbled up to basically get the same idea across. If you compare this to something like Japanese, things are a little bit stricter. They're not completely strict, obviously, but they're a little bit more strict than English. So English, you can do lots of things. And the funny thing is, people will tell you that, like, you can't split an infinitive. You can't say, they say, to boldly go where no man goes before, and that's improper English. It's like, that improper English is present in proper manuscripts going way back in time. So actually, it's not improper English. Your E.B. White style manual said it was improper English, and people just thought that. No, you can say to boldly go, you can say boldly to go, or you can say to go boldly. Which one sounds the best? To boldly go. It has a better sound, so you just do the one that you think sounds better. And that's what's cool about English. I love it. So as part of finding like your voice in prose, you can do things like that. If you go and you read older writers like Robert E. Howard, he does this frequently. Into this world, Conan. That's not proper English. Proper English. No, it sounds cool. So you do what sounds cool. And that's the way you should write. I love the way English sentences can have crazy different word orders. Yeah, it's just, and it's, the people who teach English teach the opposite. That's what's so funny about it to me. I love it. David's chat and Virgin video is both informative and hilarious to watch, and I can't get it monetized. People love that video, and I can't make a dime off it because YouTube is like, naughty, naughty, naughty. You said Virgin and Chad. You're talking about memes, naughty boy. And you said something. I don't remember. I think I had one of them in there that was like, I think I had a spicy meme. And so the spicy meme police said, you can't put this on YouTube and make money. You can put it on YouTube, but you're not allowed to make money because spicy meme police say so. But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that, particularly going back and thinking about The Great Gatsby, because I was just, it really started with The Great Gatsby. I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, a lot of people don't realize that Gatsby's a big gamma. Like, he's a pathetic character. But people think he's a cool character, and I don't know what's wrong with these people. Gatsby's pathetic, and I think he's intended to be pathetic. I think Fitzgerald himself was kind of a gamma male, but he definitely wrote Gatsby in a pathetic sort of way, which is why, like, when I think it's Tom tells him to, like, just take his wife home, and he does it because he's at the heart of it, he's still like a pathetic dude. If you made a visual novel, would it have very little to no choices and branching paths for your characters? Or do you prefer to have a lot of choices for the player? I would prefer to have a lot of choices for the player. But each choice you make can compound the amount of work that you do. So the best approach for efficiency is to do the BioWare approach, which is you create the illusion of choice. My creative writing teacher said I can use fragments for emphasis and then marked a point off when I did. Burgess Plankton versus Chad Krabs. Let's save it. I'm going to look up that Legendary Smith. I think I had that saved. Let's save the game real quick. I think I'm going to look it up real quick. Do you want to overwrite this? Yes. There we go. Let's see here. Where does he go? I'm just gonna look it up. Okay. Okay. Oh, we still have to unlock a door in Eureka. That's what it is. Okay, so anyway, I can't get to the legendary Smith yet, unfortunately. I gotta get way further in the game. I was kind of hoping to get that ultimate weapon a little early, but nah, it's okay. We'll get the ultimate equipment later, I guess. Gotta go over this way. I think I'm running out of time for the stream, so I may call it here once we get to this dungeon. How often do you read John C. Wright's blog? It's one of the best ones. Not often, but you're right, I should read it more. I like John C. Wright a lot. I like Brian's blog a lot, so I recommend his blog. He always has something spicy to say. J.D. Cowan writes very long blog articles, but they're usually very good. So... Okay, this goes nowhere. I have to go through here, I think. I'm in Cancun with Ted Cruz. Motion comics are getting my attention more than visual novels for my stories. I don't know what a motion comic is, so I'm going to have to do some research. But yeah, I've thought about doing a visual novel because I think it could be done cheaply. Basically because I could do almost all the work. So I could do the programming, I could do the story, I could do the music. The only thing I'd have to work with another person on is the art. So that's a two-man team. Two-man team is a lot more manageable than something that's not that. Can I hop here? Oh, here we go. Gotta hop through these mountains. Hopping. I just looked up that J.D. Cowan blog post on pacing. It's quite similar to the Lester Dent Pulp Master fiction plot. I've talked about pacing. My rule of thumb is if there's not something significant happening every other page, or, well, if you're writing in Microsoft Word, every page, every 500 to 1,000 words, then your pacing is going to feel slow. And if it's happening much more quickly, it's going to feel like you're rushing through the plot. So generally every 1,000 words, you need to have some kind of significant event happen, a plot event. Oh, apparently things can attack me. You know a few artists. Hire some anime artists from Japan. Hey, they need the dough, yeah. I'd have to figure out what I could get done, you know? It's something I'm really considering, but right now I'm just exploring the medium more. I'm trying to actually do some visual novel, like I don't know, would you play them? I don't know the verb. What's the verb? Play? Is it you play, read them, experience them? I'm trying to experience some visual novels so I understand the medium. Because I think it's a market with potential for growth. And I think it's been left alone a little bit in the West, but it's huge in Japan. So it's like, I don't know, maybe you do a Japanese translation and try to market it in Japan as well. I don't know. The PlayStation Vita has a ton of them. The best way to ensure something important happens every 500 to 1,000 words is making sure your characters are properly motivated. Thank you, Brian. Yeah, they have to have a reason to do things. They have to have a reason to go somewhere. They have to have a reason to react to an event. Or they have to have a reason to find out something. So I'll give you an examples of, you could have a series of plot events. One could be a reveal. The character finds out something that's important for the main plot goal. And the thing is, it all comes with a main plot goal, like a main conflict. So in Star Wars, it was blow up the Death Star. For years, it could be something like, I'm trying to find my father. My father disappeared. I'm trying to find him. And you have kind of a murder mystery. So everything's revolving around that. Maybe you find out that your father worked for the mafia. There's a plot point, because that makes the character react and rethink their goal and what they're doing and how they're going to get there. Then you have a guy, they end up in a fight with somebody, that makes them say, okay, well, we definitely need to investigate this more. Maybe they find out a car's following them or something. Those are all things that are action oriented that change what you're going to do. Oh no, I needed to leave the ship. Get a Japanese artist for it, and it'll probably do well with an English and Japanese script. Yeah. Then you just have to hire one more person, and that's a person to do a Japanese translation. And that's a pretty easy gig. That's not that hard a gig, and it's something that's like a set size. You know how many words they have to translate when you're done. I've come here from Falgabard for further training. Some monsters in this cave divide and multiply when attacked by normal means. Now, maybe I should go back to Dark Knight. So let's go outside and quickly save. And we'll switch to Dark Knight. And then actually, I probably need to kill the stream because I need to go to bed. My guess is my daughter went to bed early tonight. My son, by the way, stayed up with me till 2 a.m. last night because he got tired and took a nap, which he never does. And we couldn't get him up from the nap. He was so tired. And then he was like, I'm not tired, Dad. I'm not going to sleep. I'm like, okay. So we stayed up. I wrote a blog article and hung out with him, and we watched a movie. We picked out a DVD and watched a movie I hadn't seen. I think we watched The Rescuers, which is a 1977 Disney movie. And anyway, I only bring this up because it's one of those things where it's really easy to get upset about kids getting in the way of work, but they don't. When I grow up, am I going to be upset that am I going to be upset that my son stayed up with me one night really late to watch a movie he hadn't seen and talk to me about it? No, I'm not going to. I'm going to cherish that moment because those are limited, I have videos of me like doing lightsaber fights with my 3-year-old son when he couldn't sleep in the middle of the night or felt sick. And it's like, those are precious memories. You can easily get upset that your sleep is disturbed or your little goals are disturbed, but you only have one shot with your kids. It's really cool to be able to do cool things with your kids. So he's a level 99 monk. What are we at with Dark Knight? Level 8. What is he on Viking? Probably pretty low. 7. Yeah, we'll just switch to Dark Knight. And then he'll have 4 battles. I have to do 4 battles where he basically won't get any XP, and he'll be weak. Yeah, I like Rescuers Down Under better too, Eric. I agree. But we have to watch the first one to kind of know what's up. And it's good. And it has some good villains in it, and it has a lot of good little story things to it. They're very good with the characters. They immediately draw the characters extremely well, like not just in their visuals represent who they are, but their voices, their lines, everything very quickly identifies the character and their motives and stuff. So it's very good in that way. Let's see what we can put down here. Ashura. I think Kotetsu. Problem is you can't wear like really good armor. Alright, we'll try that. That's pretty good. I used to lightsaber fight with my grandpa with those old M&M tubes. One time I accidentally cut his neck with one. Ouch. Alright, we already killed a bunch of these guys, so we're good to go. Back attack! No! Here they come, boys. Ouch! Oh, no! got to get him up quick. Happy St. Joseph's Day. Remember, Latin Rite Catholics, today isn't Lent. St. Joseph. I've talked about. Have I talked about the denigration of St. Joseph? You can buy these. You can buy these little statues that they sell with a prayer card, and you're supposed to bury this little effigy of St. Joseph in the ground, upside down, and then pray for his intercession that he'll help you sell your house. Now, I bring this up. It's one of these folk Catholicism is something that I find like very, very interesting. It's one of these folk Catholic things. And the idea came from, you're going to bury St. Joseph's statue and you're going to tell him, better help me sell my house, St. Joseph, or you're not coming out of the ground. I'll dig you up once you help me sell my house. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this, but it's one of the weirdest things that people, one of the weirdest folk Catholic practices that I could think of. I'm not sure who came up with it, but it's like idolatrous, but in the negative. It's like, we're going to pretend that this effigy of St. Joseph somehow affects him. You know? And then bury it to punish him. Like it's a little idol of him and is him. And then we're going to get our house sold as a result. It's so bizarre. Anyway, it's one of those funny things. So yes, happy Feast of St. Joseph. I'll tell my wife because she really wanted a Starbucks. To give up Starbucks for Lent. Said I was going to give up energy drinks, but I've had a few because I just couldn't stay awake with my kids. So I haven't been the best. My father disappeared and I'm trying to find him. That's the plot for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's also the plot for Fallout 3. And I think Fallout 4. I haven't played Fallout 4, but it's the plot for Fallout 3. Where'd my dad go? But it gets you going. That gets you out the door. And then you have the plot kind of shift as you find out more in Indiana Jones. You know, oh, we actually could find the Holy Grail. You know, the cup from the Last Supper. Oh, what did I get? Black something? I don't know what I got. I didn't see it. Power bracers. I don't know what I got. I didn't see it. Oh well. It's probably not that important. It's the plot to my life. I'm still trying to mod Skyrim, but Vortex is causing Skyrim to freeze so bad I have to uninstall and reinstall the game just to get it to play. I don't suppose you have any ideas. Make sure that you are installing... So they get confused with the mods. Make sure you're installing the mods for the correct version of Skyrim. If you're installing the 32-bit Skyrim mods... I found this out the hard way. On 64-bit Skyrim, it won't work. If you're installing 64-bit Skyrim mods on 32-bit Skyrim, it may work or it may not work. So, and it can sometimes cause the game to just not start up. So that's the thing you have to do, is you have to make sure the mods are the correct version. Because it's not obvious. You know, they'll say Skyrim Special Edition. That means 64-bit. Or it'll say Skyrim, normal. So you always want the normal Skyrim ones if you're using the 32-bit version. I use the 32-bit version because it has more mods and it can actually display in the appropriate resolution for me, which is 6400 by 1080. 6400 by 1080. Wow. It goes like, you're like playing through, like, this is so immersive. I feel like I'm really, really clicking through menus in Skyrim. All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. I need to go to bed. I appreciate the stream. It's been a lot of fun. Each day, a man went to the bar and drank 2 beers, one for him and one for his brother in Ireland. One day, he only ordered 1 beer. The bartender said, "My condolences for the loss of your brother." The man replied, "My brother is fine, but me, I'm giving up beer for Lent." I like that. The real fun game is finding what Christian traditions are not just taken whole cloth from paganism. There's lots that aren't. A lot of the traditions that we think of as or are labeled as pagan also developed after Christianization. They're just folk traditions. And so it's not really clear where they came from. And in some cases, you look at certain apocryphal stories of saints, for instance, and you're like, that seems like it's some echo of some mythological past. Like, it seems like it's pre-Christian, but it's written in a post-Christian time, and clearly in like apocryphal compared to some other version of the saint's life we have. You know, like Saint Patrick never, the whole shamrock thing with Saint Patrick, that's not true. Same thing with like driving the snakes out. That's like apocryphal stuff. But there's a lot of stuff like that with early saints where somebody writes it down 4 centuries later and you're like, did they always believe this? I'm not sure, or it seems kind of pagan, where's it from? So there's a lot of weird traditions that just end up as folk traditions because that oral tradition kept going on. And so all the pagan traditions were oral traditions and the newer traditions were oral traditions. So sometimes you think, oh, well, this oral folk tradition is pagan when it's really not pagan at all. It's just a folk tradition. It's something that somehow the folk came up with and then it got incorporated into it. That's part of folk Catholicism. It's like, where did this idea of bearing St. Joseph come from? Well, it's not pagan because it developed well after that. So you can't say it's pagan, but it's somebody thinking incorrectly about how intercession of saints works and thinking, and then it's probably somebody buried an effigy of St. Joseph and was like, this works. Joseph doesn't like to be buried, so he'll do it for you. It's like, but that's not him. That's just a plastic statue of St. Joseph. St. Joseph is in heaven. You can't affect St. Joseph by burying a statue of him. You guys know that, right? Yeah, and I've heard this one as well. Like, the conversion would have happened if they forced everyone to drop their local traditions. And a lot of the local traditions are not necessarily religious. This is one of the things that is difficult about looking at mythology and religion, ancient religion. Now, we have a good idea of what ancient Roman religion was like. We don't have as clear an idea of what ancient Greek religion was necessarily like compared to the Roman religion because they didn't write about it as much. And the myths are not religion. This is the thing. This is why you have these people who are like, yeah, the Bible stories are, Marvel stories are just like the Bible stories and like ancient myths. It's like, they're not, though, because the myths were the stories that the people told, but not their religion. Whereas the Bible, especially the New Testament's intimately bound up with the religious practice. I don't think you can really separate the Bible and the practice of Christianity very well. So it's not a fair comparison usually. So a lot of the times what people think of as pagan religion is like, we don't even know what the pagan religion really was because all the writing about religion came after Christianity. It's like, we don't really know what the Irish pagan tradition was, for instance, because the Irish were totally Christianized by like the 7th century. There really weren't, the only pagans were from England. They were like, Normans and stuff coming over from England. Those were the only pagans, were like foreigners. So what was the original Irish religion like? Well, we don't really know. We don't know what the Druids really did either, because the Druids didn't write their crap down. So when they died out, suppose maybe St. Patrick killed all the Druids. That was the joke on Twitter. When they died out, their religion died with them. Or same thing with Gnostics, people trying to revive Gnostic Christian sects. We don't know what the Gnostics really believed except what the church fathers wrote about the Gnostics. So whatever secret knowledge they thought they had, it died with them when their religion did not carry on. We can't really, like, that's why pagan revivalism is so bizarre. I mean, even Julian the Apostate tried to revive paganism, and it was basically a false attempt because he'd been separated from it. The pagan traditions, once they're gone, like, you can't really recover them easily because people didn't write them down. They just were practiced throughout it. So, I've said this before, that like a lot of the things are, they're pagan, really they're folk traditions that just kind of carried over, and maybe they had some ancient echo, like Santa Claus, especially Sinterklaas in the Dutch tradition, because my family's Dutch. It's very much like Odin, right? It's like he rides this horse, he has a staff like Odin, but is it Odin? We don't know. You'd have to go so far back to when people didn't write to even think of that. And then by the time they come up with the tradition of Sinterklaas, maybe they've cut and pasted some things from like some ancient pagan oral past, but it's not associated with a pagan religion at that point. You don't really know, like, because the religion's a practice thing. It involves like sacrifice. It was one of them. Was it C.S. Lewis or Tolkien was like, I would love to meet a real pagan, because the pagan's a perfect pre-Christian. He's a religious person who doesn't yet believe in Christ. But I never meet real pagans. It's never people leaving bread out for Zeus or something. It's people doing, it's people trying to revive what they think pagan traditions are. Because there's like the organization, there's two different Druid organizations. I don't know if you guys know this. There's a Druid revival that's basically the same as the Masons, or like, they're like a lodge group. Then there's a Druid revival where they're like pretending to actually practice some sort of Druidic religion. You realize this is nonsense when you know that the Druids didn't write down what they believed and they all died. And we don't even know what they wore. We're going to wear white robes. We don't know that the Druids wore anything different than anybody else, or what they even did, because they didn't write it down. That stuff gets kind of lost in time, Odin would groom men to be great warriors. Then when they got too old, he would kill them to recruit them into the army of Asgard. And if you were in the army of Asgard, you would be killing each other eternally until the end of time. That was your joy, was to go out and battle, and you'd kill, everybody would die. You'd have a big melee and everybody kill each other, and then Odin would revive them, and then they'd have a feast. That doesn't really sound very fun to me, but maybe it is for a warrior. Except its proper name is the Feast of the Resurrection of the Pasha. I mean, for a long time, I don't know if Easter still does. I mean, it was always attached to the Passover feast. They're like, why? It's a movable thing. It's like, because it's attached to Passover, which is Jewish, It's not actually, I don't think Easter is like remotely pagan. I think one of the things you can think of with Christmas is like, you have a tree. It's like the tree is, it's Yggdrasil. It was some folk tradition related to pagan beliefs, maybe 1700 years ago or something, and then just kind of lost its meaning as people kept doing their traditions even when their religious practices changed. Why did you kiss under mistletoe? Because mistletoe is associated with fertility. Because you crack open mistletoe and the sap is white. It looks like semen. Is that pagan? Maybe, yeah. It goes far enough back. Could be. In the final analysis, paganism died because people liked Christianity better. Now, this is another thing, too. So if you look at English history, I guess this is the last thing I'll say on it, because we could go on for hours with this. But just as an example, there's all these little pendants, these little Thor pendants. Probably know what they look like if you're into mythology, but they look like a hammer hanging. Like if you were to hang a hammer down, it looks like that. It has kind of a fat end, and then it goes up, and you put a loop through it, and you wear it around your neck. Now people, kind of neo-pagans, like to wear these things. Well, we found them. People still had them and wore them in post-Christian England. And England itself is an interesting case, because it was Christian during the Roman times. Then the Anglo-Saxons came in and they were pagans. Then they converted to Christianity. Then the Normans came in and they were pagans, and then they converted to Christianity. So the invaders became Christianized. But they bring in these pendants, and people still wore them. People still had them. because they were just like a fairly family heirloom at that time. They didn't sit there and be like, Thor is guiding me. Or maybe they did, and they just didn't see a significant conflict between that and Christian belief. You had people with Christian wives that were pagan, but then they were being baptized. And so the process of Christianization is not as like neat and even. We like to imagine it's like a missionary, St. Patrick comes into Ireland, he preaches the gospel, everyone starts worshiping Christ, and they just forget their pagan religions. Not quite. Like it's a process. If you look at what's it called? It's called the Book of Invasions. So the Irish Book of Invasions is this really weird document about how Ireland was founded by these successive races of people. And then it's written by Christian monks. And so into it is inserted things from biblical things, like these, this group was descendants of Noah, and after the flood they did this, and then they fought these giants. It's like, okay, so one of these is like an oral folk tradition getting mixed up with Christian elements and then getting written down to sort of create a history for how Ireland existed in the pre-literary times. Very interesting to look at. So it's not that neat, and you find there's all of these little Thor pendants from Anglo-Saxon and Norman England well after Christianization. Oh, does that mean they were really secretly pagan? No, it was like a piece of jewelry that they held onto. And so they probably weren't like doing some sort of goat sacrifice to Thor, but rather held onto a Thor pendant because maybe they thought it was good luck, or they had some sort of other attachment to it. Like Granddad wore this when he fought for Alfred the Great. And so I'm going to wear it now too. And so you end up with lots of these little things. It's not nearly as neat and even as people like to think it is, because nothing really is. Like cultural conquest, the Norman conquest, Normans conquered England. Oh, well, does that mean England just became Scandinavian? England was conquered by, let's see, the Romans. Then it was conquered by the Anglo-Saxons, the Danes. So the Anglo-Saxons were Germanic. The Danes, you had Scandinavians come in. Then they kind of got beat and became Christianized by the Anglo-Saxons, which themselves were Christianized by the Celtic fringe, which were Christianized by the Romans. A lot going on there. And then you have Normans come in who are from France. They speak French, but they're actually Scandinavian, and most of them are pagan, and then they become Christianized. So all of these people invade England and then become Christian. I think that says something about the power of the church and about the power of the religion at that point, is that you had people, all these foreigners coming in and settling in England and then becoming English basically through their religion, through their religious practice. Very interesting. The word for Christians in Scandinavian, Jul, is the old Viking name for the big ceremony that took place here at that time. Or for Christmas, yeah, Yule. And I think that's an Old Norse word, because we have it in English too, Yule. Yuletide, or maybe it could have been brought over by the Danish, could have been England. This is why English language is so cool, is that it's got Latin, it's got Celtic elements to it, it's got Germanic elements to it from the Saxons and the Angles, and it's got Scandinavian elements to it, Old Norse from Vikings and from Danish invaders and all these other people that came into England. And then it's got French because the Normans learned French and then brought that in, and there was a long relationship with France. So it's got all these, it's a history of the language being invaded as well. What an interesting thing to think about. But that's what I'll leave you with. It's not always a messy thing. So thinking like if you're going to go Vargmog and think people were secretly pagans the whole time because they happened to have a Thor pendant that they held onto, it's like they didn't consider it garbage because it was an old piece of jewelry or something. We don't know why they held on to it. That doesn't mean they weren't Christian or they were magically pagan. I don't think it works that way. It's not just because things aren't super neat doesn't mean that all the peasantry were secretly pagans, carrying out their pagan rituals, like burning the Yule log. It's like if they were secretly pagans, they'd be sacrificing goats and stuff. That's my thought on it. So anyway, guys, take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time.